Hey there, I'm Becky.
And I'm Lindsay.
And we finally hit record on our candid conversations around conscious parenting.
We're here to talk about all of it.
Ugly parts included.
And share our raw experiences and imperfect insights as we're doing parenting.
Pretty conscious.
In our very first episode, we're talking about the family values that are unique to each family unit and how we go about identifying them and speaking about them in our parenting. Okay, let's dive in. We're so glad you're here.
Hello.
Hi.
We're here for our official first episode.
Yes, we are.
I'm so excited.
Likewise.
So we say official first episode, and that's because we have a couple other episodes that we have recorded that are available.
Yes.
But they don't feel like the first episode.
Yeah. As we were talking, we were like, doesn't feel like launch material. We both wanted launch episode to feel like instantly valuable is kind of, I think, what we were saying is that, we want you to feel the value of what we're doing right away. And we also were talking about wanting to have more of that feeling of talking with listeners.
Yes.
Whoever's listening in, having it feel more like a three-way conversation with the person who's on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first three episodes are very much you and me talking to each other about what's really cool about what we're doing and what got us to this point and why we're doing Pretty Conscious in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that being able to have those is great.
Totally.
It definitely helps people get to know us and why we're here and how we got here. And as a first launch episode and going back to sort of what we talked about in those episodes of what we want for Pretty Conscious, that having this be our launch episode, our real first episode, does start to provide that value of people being able to hear our conversation and easily figure out where they can fit in and what they can glean from it. Yeah. And so, I'm excited that we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
And if people want to listen to those building block episodes, they can, especially that third one, I think does have, the first two feel very story oriented and creation
Pretty
story.
Conscious lore.
Yeah. But that third one, we talk a bit about what conscious parenting is, how what sets it apart a little bit from other kinds of parenting in the sphere of gentle parenting, responsive parenting, whatever you want to, all the different things out there.
Yeah. And I know we talked about it briefly about having episode 3 be the launch episode. Yeah. But I really like what we decided on. Yeah. And I feel like I'm so glad that we recorded the 3 episodes that we did and have them now as building blocks that are available right now, because I wouldn't want people sitting around having to wait. If they wanted that information, I would want them to have all of it.
Totally.
Right off the jump.
Yeah.
And it almost it sits kind of funky with me, the thought of holding on to our core values, which is episode 2.
Yeah.
And withholding that until the release schedule allows it to be presented. And so it's I'm really glad that we have that. So those are available already for people to go back. And if you're interested in that and you want all of that right now, cool. You've got a bingeable amount of content already waiting for you.
Yeah.
And we'll talk today about our personal core values. Yeah. And also a little bit of a bit of a workshopping kind of session, because I have a pretty solid practice of establishing family values that are specific to me and my family. But yours is a little more dynamic. Yeah. And so correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like part of this is you wanting to go through a bit of the process of formalizing those. Yeah. Which would be really cool.
It's definitely something that I think about and have thought about, but they're not necessarily formalized to like not like in words, you know?
Yes.
Like I have the feelings, but I don't have it in words, and being able to have it in words. And I was even talking with Tyler, my husband, before this, and like we started talking a little bit about like values alignment and like sort of like just, you know, getting the rumblings, knowing that I was coming today to do this episode. And and I think that doing it sort of like the workshopping way makes it so that other people could easily insert themselves into the seat that I'm sitting in right now. And I'm stoked to jump in. Before we jump in, should we do trinkets? About trinkets?
Yeah. So I'll give my best go at trinkets because you brought the concept to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you add in.
Great.
Does that sound okay?
Sounds beautiful.
Okay. So Becky came to me a while ago with this beautiful song, Memories by Bev Boss. And we've linked it in episode 2's show notes. And I can link it again here. But in the song, they reference these trinkets as these things that kind of move through life with you as almost like little mini resources, but also it could be glimmers, delights. And then we also wanted for it to be multi-purpose, kind of as a little place for us at the beginning of every episode where we can bring into the space whatever we're bringing in to the space as real people. So the things that are kind of front of mind that maybe are taking some of our focus away from the topic of today, or like if there's an undertone that we're bringing in to the episode with us, just offering ourselves a space to acknowledge that and for it to be here with us. And so sometimes there'll be little like beautiful takeaways that are 5 minutes, and sometimes it'll be like, hey, I don't feel great about my appearance today and I'm feeling a little self-conscious. And so that's my trinket for today. Just like, just know that's where I'm at.
Just like allowing it to be here. And then, also just like the trinkets that I have gotten in the little conversations that we have shared from you are things that I carry with me. Like the song says, like are the little things like trinkets you carry with you now. And it's like, I've got a whole pocket full of trinkets from Lindsay and I would love to get to share some of those with other people. And so, they could be like little tips. They could be little stories. They could be the like, what's here now. It could just be like, any of those. Those sort of things. So just a way for us to jump into an episode without having to like jump right into content so that we have the chance to sink in. Our listeners have the chance to sort of sink in and maybe take a little something with them if it resonates.
Totally. And I think it serves what is so rich and sweet here, which is the relationship between us. And also I hope that it can serve as an invitation if you're not into the trinket or you just want to purpose that time to check in with yourself about what's here and true for you and what's in the space for you as you're listening to the episode to kind of see what lens you're taking this information in from. I think that's important too. So multifunctional tool. It's the Swiss pocket knife of how to open a podcast. And also we will, I will note at what time the trinket concludes, and we dive into the topic at the beginning of every episode. So if you just want to get right into the thick of it, the meat and potatoes, you will have that available.
Awesome. I think that's great.
Cool.
I have a trinket today that I would love to share just because it came up in a conversation at the barbecue that I was at before this.
Cool.
And it's a trinket that I have gotten from you that has been life-changing. So
I
would love to share it in our like first official episode.
Sure.
It is the concept of that's good information for me to know.
Yay.
Just that quote of that's good information for me to know, and what it has allowed for me to like the how it has helped me be okay showing up in spaces just authentically me. Because especially as a parent, we don't have room for leaky energy.
So true.
That we have to really protect the resources that we do have, the internal resources, that our time managed, like all of that is, we're all pressed for time. We're all pressed for energy. We're all pressed for capacity. And so if I am pouring that into relationships with other people, that there is like a misalignment where, and I'm pouring it in not knowing that there's that misalignment, then that's just all for naught. And so it's been, I feel like we talked about this I feel like you brought it up pretty early on because I
think I just say it so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also I think it came up in the context of my partner and I, when you and I first connected. Right. Juan and I were very much fresh off of a separation.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of moments where it's like, it's neither here nor there. There's no moral judgment about what it is. Like, it doesn't matter what my moral feelings are about it or anything. It's just, that's really good information for me to have, because I need to know what's true and honest for you, and everything that, even when it's hard to hear, it's still such good information for me to know. Yeah. So that I can make an informed decision. Yeah. And that the inverse of that is that it's also really important for me to share the things that are really good for other people to know about me,
so they can make an informed decision.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've brought that so much into finding a lot of the like caregiving positions that I'm in. And today the barbecue was with somebody that I take care of their kiddos, and they've become a fast friend. And she was sharing with one of her friends that was at the barbecue, how it was she felt such a sense of like relief when I just like so transparently put out there what like my values are, what I was looking for, what I offer, because she was able to know right off the bat that there were like some core things that we shared.
Yeah.
And she said I was able to just relax into that first conversation and not have to like worry about sussing those things out, like looking for some of the covert signals. It was just out there on the table. And that was really helpful for other parents that I had met with, that there was a big values misalignment. Right. And not feeling like, oh gosh, I missed out on an opportunity because, you know, like, oh, I don't have this job that I could have potentially had. It was like, no, I would rather know that now than in 6 months. I would rather know that now before we get into a situation that feels stickier. Yeah. That like just having it out in the open feels so much better. Yeah. And so, yeah, I use that's good information for me to know. And I just love that it's like, it's leaked out to different people, like through me, that I like, because you say it so much, I now say it so much. And because I say it so much, people that I'm connected with have started to say it and take note. And it's just, it was cool today to hear the like relief and safety that it brought to an initial relationship with this other parent. So
I'm glad that it has served you so well. It has served me so well. And it's simple, and it comes back to, it almost sounds, as you're talking about it, some parts of it sounds like the divisiveness of the times of like, we have all these non-negotiables and we just put it out there. Yeah. And it's not that. No. It's relationship serving. It's time honoring. It's no wrongness. It's, you know, because it's not, I'm sitting here in judgment of you. It's, I know myself well, and I know what my non-negotiables are for my time investments in relationships. And so, it totally carries into parenting. When it comes to my kids, there's plenty of moments where I'm like, that's really good information for me to have. You actually are happy that you hurt your brother right now. Okay, that's good information for me to have. Yeah. Because I need to be working with what's real here. Yeah. And so anything that's honest is good information for me to have. Yeah. And sometimes the honest stuff is hard to swallow. And just a quick reframe of like, nope, I would still so much rather be working with reality than delusion for the sake of comfort, the appearance of harmony, the appearance of kindness, the appearance of whatever. I want what's real here. That's what I want to work with.
And I think that for me, that really helped me sink into like authenticity for myself, that I felt the need to like be a chameleon a lot less. Yes. That I was actually allowed to show up as me. And that doesn't mean that I'm like being an asshole.
Yeah.
It just means that like I'm showing up authentically me and not bending myself backwards in every situation to try to be everything for everyone. And like as a former people pleaser, somebody who like tried to be everything for everyone. Yeah. That was like a really helpful trinket for me that I carry and use every day. Yay. So
I love it. And it ties back into like kindness. Clarity is kindness.
Yeah.
Like kind is clear. Yeah. Clear is kind. Because it's, yeah. Okay. That trinket could go on for a while. That
I know.
Could be a whole episode.
It could.
For now.
Yes.
Does that feel complete for you?
It sure does.
Okay. Let's dive in to the topic of our personal family values. And also how you can utilize. This topic is huge.
Yeah.
So let's narrow in our scope.
Yeah.
Of just maybe the invitation of this episode is, do you know what your family values are? When I was first asked that question, I was like, oh yeah, obviously, duh. And then I was like, okay, list them. Oh.
What
maybe
do you mean?
I do not know
what
our family values are. If you're asking me to list 10 and select the top 3, oh, maybe I don't have such a clear picture of what our family values are.
Yeah.
And when I say family values, I'm just going to put this out there.
Yeah.
Because it's good information for you to have. That we're not talking like any framework of family values. I'm not talking religiously informed family values or XYZ informed family values. I'm talking unique to the individual family values. And it is unique to each family. And so, and sure, some families are going to have religion informing these things or other cultural contexts informing their values. But when we're talking family values, I'm not talking like traditional family values.
Yeah. I think that's really important.
That had big air quotes.
Yeah. Important to put out in the space of what we mean.
Yes. Let me pause to think about where to begin. So really it does come down to, if you're looking at a list and you have a list, conveniently supplied, and one that will be available in the show notes. But literally a list of all the things that could be values. Do you want to list off some of them?
Sure.
And maybe list off the ones that jump out to you so we can do two birds, one stone here.
I love that. So I'll just go through and I'll start naming some that do jump. This is without having like looked at the whole list and trying to confine to 10.
Right. And we don't want to, as you're doing this, if you're doing a formal practice of this, we're not looking for really heady thinking about these things. We're wanting the family values that when you hear the word, something buzzes inside of you that tells you, oh, yep, that's one.
Yeah. Meaning, fairness, openness, adventure, oneness, peace or nonviolence, personal growth, fun, like play is another one that comes up. And that's like I would not have included like a couple years ago, and now it does feel really important. Let's see here. Collaboration feels important.
And I can add in some of mine. From our personal family values. We've got, I'll just list like the top 3. So we have flexibility. We have personal responsibility is new on the docket. But it's an important one right now. And we have honesty as one of ours. And authenticity is kind of like we're right in there. It's like an honesty, authenticity. It's one and the same. Other ones. So as like Tyler and I were talking, the ones that like I was just like starting to look at some of the things that feel, I don't know. This is me sort of jumping into the process that I was already in. Is that okay? Okay. Totally.
So I had started looking at knowing that we were going to do this and like really starting to put some more intentional thought in the last like week or two into it. I started thinking about some of the things that like have felt rough or sticky or crunchy in our household. And being like, okay, what is it about this thing that is feeling so bad?
Yeah.
Because that's telling me.
Anger is such a good communicator about values.
Yes. That's telling me that there is some sort of value being violated. Right. Yes. And I think that that's like a
function of anger.
Yes. And so that was sort of like a starting point of what I like started rumbling around as I was in the shower many times this week. And yeah, so like one of the ones I think is like really important for us, and I think potentially for a lot of other people, is like body safety. Feels like an importance. I know that one's on your guys' list too. And so yeah, body safety, but then I also put like almost, it feels like safety, and then body safety felt more prevalent than, not more prevalent, but like not more important than emotional safety. But like emotional safety also feels like it's in there too, and like with that is like harmful language, like like not wanting to like intentionally harm each other, and if there is harm, like the repair piece feels in there, because like for me, when there is any sort of like emotional friction, as there is in families, I feel things with that beyond just like the moment. It feels like there's something more there.
Can you say that again? Not because you didn't communicate clearly, but because I went somewhere else in my mind.
Yes.
I was like jumping ahead to respond, and I actually want to hear what you said.
Yes. Yeah. So emotional safety, when I think about those moments that like maybe emotional safety is not being held, it feels like there's more happening in me than just like that moment. It feels like there is more being stirred up. Yeah. Like there's like the value is there.
It's where the stimulus doesn't match the response.
Yes. Yeah. And it feels like there is something to that feels so incredibly important to me. And maybe that's, instead of emotional safety, it's like safe relating, relationship. Like, I don't know what necessarily the value has to be called. It doesn't have to be called anything, but like that feels like a part of the safety conversation for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, so it sounds like, is what you're saying that body safety feels more kind of zeros and ones, like more like simple to process, whereas emotional safety is more convoluted and dynamic and has the potential to bring up more old stuff for you potentially, or not even necessarily old stuff, but stuff that's outside of right here, right now, this behavior, this interaction.
Yes. Yeah.
And so is one of your family values like addressing that or holding space for that? How does that tie in?
Yeah. So I think that, I think that that's what it is that one of the family values is feeling like I need to address that is here, and that is a really important thing to me for us to feel like a cohesive working family. Yeah. Quote unquote working. Just having, when we are working together, there is emotional safety. Yeah. And so, and like when it's not there, it feels like I feel things when that's not there.
Yeah, totally. I'm trying to like, and trying to like feel into what is, because the emotional safety is what's not being met. Yeah. But what would emotional safety look like? And a lot of times when I'm thinking about values, a big part of this conversation is that it's really important for us to have our family values defined, because in theory, all of our boundary setting should be tied back to values.
Yeah.
And so I think ahead to like, okay, if emotional safety is a family value, what boundaries are we setting from that place?
Yeah.
And when we're talking about boundaries, this is stay with me. It's only like 2 more sentences.
Yes.
But when we're talking about boundaries, the way that I often will identify a boundary is like something that I'm willing to temporarily surrender relational harmony to maintain and to enforce in air quotes. But it's something that I'm willing to hold the line on in lieu of temporary relational harmony. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that came out
that
feels,
how
I meant it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I totally get that.
And so working it back up.
Yes.
In the scenarios that you think of with your emotional safety and that value not being you guys operating outside of alignment with that value.
Yeah.
What boundaries do you see coming from that? And also, I just want to pause and call out this dynamic where like I'm walking you through something is not how every podcast is going to be. This is because I've done this practice in particular. And so just for people listening in, this is...
It's not just like a Lindsay coaching
this
Becky.
This is the Lindsay show and Lindsay is walking Becky. No, this is usually a very reciprocal. Some episodes will be like this. Yeah. And some episodes will be the inverse of this. Yeah. And so just putting that out there.
Because this is what the conversations we have look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Is like
sometimes you're sharing a tool with me and I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Guide me. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So yes, I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah.
Hopefully this felt like an appropriate time to say
I think that's totally fine. Okay, so boundaries that I feel like I would, or like scenarios that would come up that I would feel like this is being violated and I would need to set a boundary around. If there is any sort of like significant rupture, the repair piece would be like eventually we do need to like circle back and not just like sweep the things under the rug. We do need to circle back to it.
So it's like kind of the committing to the rupture piece.
Or committing to the repair. Is that what you mean?
No.
No?
I mean committing to the rupture.
Okay, tell me again.
In the sense of like because we don't rush repair, right? It's not always happening right away.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, especially me with my ADHD mind, I will just forget that the rupture existed.
Yeah.
And so I actually do have to commit to the rupture and remind folks, whether it's my partner or whether it's my kids.
Yeah.
With gentleness, of course. And that's the other thing. Rupture is not a bad word in our house.
No.
And rupture and conflict are not bad things in conscious parenting. They're actually required.
Yeah.
As part of that rupture and repair process. So it is that like in the moment, sometimes it looks like, hey guys, we're actually out of alignment here. And we actually do need to get back on the same page. It doesn't need to happen right now.
Yeah.
But me committing to the rupture is an important part of the rupture and repair process. And seems like it would fit in there of like, let's acknowledge that we're actually not totally harmonious right now. That there is something in the space with us.
Yeah. I think that acknowledgement and not the just like
moving through it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that is the strategy. That is the approach. We're just moving through it.
Yeah. But like with significant relational rupture, feeling like, that circling back does feel really important to me.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Which honestly, like when I think about, like, so when I think about this idea of like circling back, it's very similar to, I think, one of Tyler's values, which is follow through, which like is very similar, like personal responsibility, like that whole,
yes.
And we've just, as we were chatting and as I've been like thinking and like really looking through like this lens at our family situation over the last like week and a half, have started noticing that is one of the things that's really important to Tyler.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I'm able to let go of at this stage.
Yeah.
But it being really important to Tyler means that it's really important to our family dynamic.
Yeah.
And so that feels like it needs to be in there as a family value as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Are you okay? Does that feel like a good segue moment?
Yep.
Okay. Because when we're talking about values and we're talking about family values, yes, there's the unified family values list, but there's also an individual values list that each one of us carries into the picture, including our kids. And so the value...
I have no idea what word that was supposed to be.
Oh, it was supposed to be... That's what the word was. Okay. So the family values should also include our children's values as considerations into the overall family values umbrella. So it is this amalgamation of lists, and it's not saying, hey, everybody, you can pick one to put on the list, right?
Yeah.
But we're taking an inventory of needs, which is another part of this process, and maybe it's another whole episode.
Yeah.
But we're taking a best fit line approach.
Yeah.
Where we're considering, okay, what are Becky's personal values? What are Tyler's personal values? What's E's personal values?
Yeah.
E's your little one.
Yep.
For context. If this is your first time.
Yep.
And it's saying, like, nobody's going to get exactly what they want because that's just not how teamwork happens. And you're all on the same team. So we're going to find a best fit line approach. And so the family values should be that best fit line.
Yeah.
But keeping in mind that we each have our varying individual values.
Yeah.
My partner and I, very different. And even the wild thing is, we actually have a very similar looking list of values, but the way that those things look and what those things mean to us, very different interpretations of the values themselves. And same goes for the kids. And so it's kind of this, I just want to talk about kind of the structure of the family values. If you're a really structured person and you wanted to do this, which is not necessarily my approach, and I don't see you also taking this approach.
But I think it's also helpful to have like a
the
framework
theory.
and the theory of it.
Yes.
And then I can like do my...
Yeah. So from a theory place, you would have everybody. And maybe your kids are at an age where you can actually like ask them, you can present them the list and say, hey, what of these things are the most important to you? Meet them wherever they're at developmentally, whatever. And you create an individual list for all. And then you create a family list that ideally is also checking some of those boxes, but also so that we each have awareness about what our individual values are that maybe didn't make the family values cut.
Yeah.
But it's so good to have that information because, like a scenario that you just described that we cut from the episode, but like this scenario where like one partner cares a lot more about something than the other partner, I think that's such a great place to utilize us knowing what each other's values are so that we can, because even if it's not a value that's on my list, I still support you in having your values be valid and welcome here in our family. Yeah. And we will, that's why flexibility is on my list.
Because it's like,
because then it's like, how can we get creative about a way to honor your values here and also honor the best fit line? Yeah. And sometimes that looks like a good cop approach where it's like, that's something we'll get into another episode. Yeah. And I prefer the swimming relay model, but it's not quite as catchy as good cop. But we'll get into that framework another time where it is like this conversation around how do you parent with somebody who parents totally differently than you do or values totally different things in parenting than you do. But it's kind of this strengths-based approach where, you maybe for your partner, they get hotter around a topic because it's a family value or it's a value for them, but it's not a family value. And so all of that stuff that you're talking about coming up when emotional safety is an issue is coming up for them. And so maybe they're not the person to actually own that supporting follow through part for your kids, you know, and you can approach it with more alignment with your family values because you're not as close to it because it's not one of your values that's being violated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking that approach. So I think it's really good to have everybody's values in mind.
Yeah.
And then also the understanding of which values on the family values and maybe on the individual values as well, but which ones are permanent and which ones are
dynamic,
here for a season, here for a few years. Yeah. Which ones are going to like come and go off the list, you know?
Yeah.
And kind of taking, a fairly frequent check-in on the values and adding things to the list when they need to be added
and taking them off when they're ready.
When and
I think that's an important thing is that like if you're sitting here for the first time thinking about this, you won't necessarily know which ones are here to stay and which ones are gonna go, but it's just like that checking back in and like making the time to sort of like just a little corner of your brain to like, you know, look at this every once in a while. And like, especially I think when there starts to be that like friction is always like a good sign for me of, like, we're not like jiving. We're not dancing together.
Right.
We're doing a different dance right now. We're listening to different music and we need to like turn on the same music so that we can stop stepping on each other's feet.
Get back to that point where everybody can say on the same page is a really good place to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, that has been big. And I love that you bring up including our kids in that family value system. I hate the word like we need their buy-in, but we want them to, they are part of the team. Like that's the whole point of this.
They're like a whole actual person
exactly
who's a part of your family.
So it's like you're not doing it for the buy-in, but you're doing it because they are on the team. They are in the family.
And I think it's
we
worth
want it
saying,
to work for them.
Yes, and I think that's worth saying that that's somewhat unique to conscious parenting. Is that we are talking power with. In conscious parenting, from a conscious parenting lens, we actually want our kids to feel like they have empowerment here. And of course, the parent-child relationship is naturally hierarchical, and we hold so much of the power. And this conversation has been had many times, and we could probably reference one in the show notes. That's really good. We don't need to reinvent the wheel on that. But because we want our kids to feel that this is their family too. And this is their home too. And this is their family's core values. Something that they own just as much as we all do.
Yes. And it's not paying lip service to any of it. It's the like actual, like I want to like have that sink in for a second of like, and that feels like a big part of the paradigm shift of conscious parenting is your kid being a whole ass person in the family system. And that doesn't mean that like they're the only person in the family system, but it means that they are actually a person who is worthy of having their needs met and their values heard and their opinions and desires considered.
And when possible, for the way that their family operates to actually change or be informed by that. Because what you were just saying, it's not paying lip service. It's the difference between hearing your child say that play is one of my values, is one of my core values in their own way, right? I'm thinking about mine, like 4 and 6, but like in their own way, saying play is one of my family values. And so instead of scheduling swimming lessons, instead of overbooking ourselves over the summer, we're doing nothing. Because we're protecting the unstructured family time that my kid has told me is a core value for him right now in this season. He needs play with us. And for us, it's possible. And it's not possible for everybody, but there is always some way that you can honor the value. Right? Even if it is just saying, shoot. We can't really do anything about that one right now. but I'm going to keep it in mind, and I'm going to look out in the future for more opportunities to incorporate that into our life. And that can be, just another example is like, play can be then incorporated as like, okay, well, our schedule just is fully booked, but at kitchen, we can play restaurant.
Yeah.
Or
at dinner.
At kitchen. At kitchen.
I knew what you meant.
When we're already doing the things that we already have to do, we can gamify them, and we can incorporate play more into our lives, into the things that we're already doing. Mm-hmm. I just think that that's a big thing. Yeah. And you're allowed to take it seriously. I feel like that.
Yes. You're allowed to take what your kids are asking for and telling you seriously. Yeah. I would, if you're open to it, I would love for you to share, because this was helpful for me in starting to think about like my kids' values, about Big Henry's value of like fairness.
Oh yeah.
If you're open to it. I don't know if it's quite as strong right now as it has been in the past. I don't know if that was like a more seasonal one, but I know that. And it's not like he came to you and said, hey, Mom, I would like to talk to you about my values. It's really important to me that things feel fair.
Yeah.
That's not how the conversation went. No. So if you're open to sharing a little bit about how you discovered that this is his, I gained a lot of value from that. And so I think that could be helpful for people listening in.
Do you remember more of the details? Can you...
yeah, I don't remember like any specific thing, but it was more like
I can give like the process. Maybe it's not fairness, but something right now that I imagine probably is very similar.
Yeah.
Is like when I'm keeping my eyes open to family values that maybe need to be added to the list, or individual values that need more consideration, it usually is coming up in behaviors that I don't want to see. Behaviors that are happening that are uncomfortable and they're challenging, and it's like the same tricky moment that's happening over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm thinking of one right now. Right before you got here was another iteration, another moment of this like, oh my God, another time. It happened another time where I've got baby Henry.
Yeah.
Asleep. Big Henry sees baby Henry asleep and goes into the room and has to hop on the bed right up with baby Henry. And then baby Henry wakes up.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed. Like, I'm pissed. I'm mad. I feel angry. Really angry about the whole thing. So I'm just acknowledging that that's real.
Yeah.
And from like 10 steps, moonwalking away from the scenario a little bit.
Little Nick Miller.
With a little time, yes. With a little time and distance. A little time and space. In real time right now, I'm exploring like what value is in there for him. I think he values closeness. I've been hearing a lot from him that he is feeling like we are not being fair to him, and that we are assuming that he's doing something on purpose or doing something air quotes wrong or bad, or like he's doing something on purpose, especially around his siblings. Yeah, that we're making a lot of negative assumptions. We're not giving him enough benefit of the doubt. And it's really challenging and frustrating because a lot of times it seems pretty intentional and thought out. Yeah. And so then I'm like, okay, but underneath that behavior, what is the value? What is the need that is under there? And it happens again and again and again and again. So it's beyond a need, like it's beyond a temporary need. Like this is a values rupture. This is a values violation situation. And so, I mean, looking at it, I would have to sit with it further, but I think there is still some fairness rubbing up on there. And that's a good reminder because this definitely has emerged. This has emerged for Big Henry before.
And I remember like the justice being a part of that in the past.
And there's always been things around like retaliation. Like, well, they did something to me, I'm going to do something back. that's really hard for me also.
Totally.
And also, why is it so hard for me? Because as one of 4 siblings, I had to give up my sense of justice.
Yeah.
Because it was required of the, like, for the sake of relational harmony on the whole.
Yeah.
I just had to, well, you know, life's not fair. It's not always going to be perfectly fair.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, there's truth in that. But it's, our family structure is a little different.
Yes.
And so I want to honor where I can and what I can, in what ways I can, honor his need for fairness. And it's strong.
Yeah. I was, as you were talking about, like, noticing the things that, like, being open to what values are there for our kids. And it's those behaviors that happen or those moments that happen over and over and over again. And I think it's when it's a values thing, there's rigidity with it.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's something in our kids that say, I really, really don't want to budge on this one.
Yeah.
And almost like it's like an emergent impulse or something that they need to X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. It's like you see them comprehending what the request or the demand is coming from us.
Yeah.
And then it's nope.
Yeah.
Gotta do it. And it seems intentional.
Yeah.
But it's compulsive.
Yeah. Yeah. Compulsive. That's the word. I'm thinking for E, the, like, agency.
Yeah.
The child has a strong need for autonomy and agency and the ability to make her own choices and to influence a situation. Which, like, what better way than including her in a family values conversation to let her know that she actually has influence here, you know? Like, it's meeting that need. And so, yeah, having that be part of the conversation in the family values. And then I think also, like, flexibility, I know you mentioned, is, like, a big one for us as well, which if we can talk about her having this strong need for E and what E wants and what E needs. And then we can also say, yes, we want to honor that as much as possible. And we are a family system. And we want to be able to be on the same team. Flexibility is a family value that is really important so that we can all continue to feel that sense of agency and autonomy that is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just think of, like, those moments, and they've gotten to the point where she will, like, do the I'm not going to come to you situation. Like, we had that at the pool last week, and then we had it again last night. We were in Oakland visiting a friend, and we were going to get back in the car, and she's faster than me now. I cannot run as fast as her anymore with my foot. And so I sort of have to, like, kind of wait her out and really try to work on getting back together. But it's one of those moments where it feels like your need for this is so, so high, and I want to meet it. Yeah. And so, like, really trying to figure out how to work that out. And those are those moments that, like, come to mind when I'm like, what is important to her? And it's like,
well, and those big ruptures are typically two conflicting needs, or what are coming together as conflicting needs. Yeah. When after discussion and after, like, really teasing out that, like, with Juan and I, okay, we both have the same value on our list, but, like, what does that actually mean to you? What elements of that? What are examples of that? And doing the same things with our kids to tease out where is their gray area here? Where is there, and where are there hard limits here too? Because that has to be a reality. Like, if safety, if safety is an issue, because of this, I can't give you the autonomy that you want when there's not safety happening. Exactly. Like, when there's not a safe scenario, when there's not trust that we're also going to be both protecting your body safety.
That's where we've been lately. Yeah. I would love to like work out a scenario, like talk about a scenario, sure, like the one that happened yesterday, if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, like I said, body safety feels like it's like top of lists for lots of things. And like, that doesn't mean that we remove like risk. My kid still falls down. Like, it's not about bubble wrapping, but it is about like, can I live with the worst case scenario? And if the answer is no, then that's when I'm just like, that's when body safety is the hard limit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And can I just put another one in here? Like if siblings are harming siblings,
I was about to say that too.
I think that friends also, or, for me, that's one of our like body safety hard limits. Like, no, we're not just like letting siblings harming siblings on purpose. That's a hard stop.
Yeah, that's like when we have to really step. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the body safety being between kids as well, like siblings or even peers, friends, things like that is another place to step in. But yeah, so like the scenario yesterday was that we were heading out to the car and she was not wanting to hold hands, so we like stopped and chatted about like an agreement to stay close. Or we were playing red light, green light. That's what it was. And we have a very complicated version of red light, green light where there's all the colors and they all mean different things.
It's been fun creating that with
you. There's more. Catch the boys
I cannot wait. The boys, I'm sure, cannot wait.
And so we were playing that and I was like, great, like we're in play, like getting back to the car is not going to be an issue. We get to the car, I open the door, and she takes off like she just like continues down the block. And so she's maybe 4 car lengths away from me down the sidewalk. And I like, hey, we need to get in the car now. I can't, like, I'm not going to chase after you because I don't want you to run away into the street. Because this is a busy street. There's cars. Body safety is really important. Like, I want to keep you safe. And also, like, I see that doing this is important. So, like, I felt, like, very stuck in that moment of, like, where to move through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And maybe it's a get through the moment situation and then a circle back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that one as I see that one as like a body safety issue. Like, if you could have been proactive and brought in the reins more earlier on, to protect that relationship, just because I feel like that's a scenario where she's out of her normal element, y'all are out of your normal element, it's not your normal neighborhood, you don't really know all the variables, whatever. That's in that moment, it's just get through. I think it is just one of those moments. I would be like, I'm gonna physically, like, Juan, you go around.
That's what we had to do. Tyler walked around and then we were able to like sandwich her.
Yeah. To get through the moment and then honor and then acknowledge, like, it makes sense that you're pissed. Yeah. Because we overpowered your body.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, I'm happy to share with you, like, why. Yeah. Because they were big reasons. They were really big reasons.
And like tying those back even to like body safety being a family value. Yeah. Then, right? Of like, that's why I had to do this as a hard limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why we did have to move into like power over.
And I think that that's one of those areas where having your family values really formalized and also ordered in a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Not in a hierarchy of how valuable they are, but in a hierarchy of how actionable they are.
Yeah.
Because I am going to act, for sure, I am going to always act to protect body safety over everything else. If there's like a real body safety threat. So like that, something like that is a body safety threat. That's the most actionable thing. So I'm going to prioritize body safety over autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, hey, bud, I am not willing to risk it right now. Risks are too high.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to risk it. Just like you would anytime, she's going too deep in the lake, without a swim, without a float or something like that. Yeah. So I think that that's another value of sitting down and doing a little more formal process of like, as a step 2.
Yeah.
what are your most actionable values? What are you willing to move into? I think it's just so helpful to know ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's really good information to have. What things for you are hard lines about, I'm going to move into action, even if it means temporary disharmony in the relationship for the time being. I just feel like that, taking the guesswork out of those components so that we can come in and offer that like sturdy, benevolent leadership stuff.
Yeah.
Because and I think of those, obviously it's easy to go into then the nervous system stuff of like, okay, all these new variables, maybe she's stressed out, and then maybe like not
bad
in her
night's sleep
prefrontal cortex in the same way that she normally would be. So while normally play would be safe and like collaborative and cooperative, in this moment it's just too much, and so she's off. And so like considering nervous system stuff in with everything of when we're gonna rein things in a little bit, and taking that leadership role for a short period of time, so is that valuable?
I think so, for sure. And even like circling back to what you had said about some of those moments being where it feels like mismatched needs or mismatched values. Like I'm thinking of other circumstances just, at the house where like my need or my like value is flexibility. Yeah. And her need or value is autonomy. Yeah. And so I often find a lot of flexibility for her autonomy, but then I get really frustrated when like I am not given some of that same flexibility back. Yeah. And then, I think that like that's where some of that mismatch feels like it's there. And like I think why having this conversation more explicitly and not just being like, these are values I hold. Yeah. I have these values for my family. But like actually like sitting down and having,
what does it look like having them in action?
Yeah. Yeah. And like getting to talk about those with our kids. So I'm curious what some of these and I think that other people would probably like to hear, like what some of these conversations have been like with your kids around family values. Yeah. And like, has it just been like one big sit down? Has it been lots of little? Like, I think I know the answer to that, but I think that's like helpful for
to talk about what these things actually look like.
Yeah, because especially I mean, like you have a 3-year-old, like if you have a 2-year-old, like this is obviously going to sound a lot different than if you have a 14-year-old. Yeah,
And to give everybody context, I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 10-month-old. Yeah, and a partner who works from the house, but is like, the way his mind works, he has to be at work in his work mode for like until 6:30. We don't see him usually until like 6 or 6:30. And so we don't have a ton of family time together before bedtime happens during weekdays and whatnot. And so, it's fully unrealistic at this point in time and in our kids' developmental stages to have a formal sit down. I have about a 20-word max with Big Henry. Yeah. And then he tunes me out. And that's just what it is. And would I like it to be different? Sure. And that's just not what it is. So we work with what is real here. Yeah. And that's that I've got about 20 words before we've got to move on to something else. And then maybe we can try again later. We can string together a few of these moments. But they are many, many, many repetitions. And the important part about it, the thing that makes it anything meaningful at all, is the repetition in similar enough language. And it is saying, every time I go to set a boundary, it's saying, hey guys, this doesn't align with our family value of flexibility. So we're going to need to go back to workshopping our approach for the day. Yeah. Or, but always referencing the family values. Yeah. And right now, a lot of it has been, just because of their ages, a lot of it has been Juan and I defined. Yeah. And then, but we're incorporating for them just based on observation. We're watching to see what values are in there and doing our best guesswork. Yeah. And then incorporating some of those things and coming back. And so that's a lot of it's a lot of guess and check right now. Yeah. I was like, hey, Big Henry, it seems like fairness is really important to you right now. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
I'm so mad about how unfair everything is. Okay, yeah. Confirmed.
Yeah.
And so bringing that in, like, and so then when we are addressing scenarios that involve fairness, speaking to the value, and saying, oh, hey, Big Henry, I committed to you that we were going to try and serve your value of fairness more frequently. I'm going to step in here and I'm going to support Middle Henry in respecting your work as much as I come in and help him respect your help you respect his work. Yeah. Whatever. So it's the constantly infusing our everyday interactions with this language of values, with this language of it's either aligned or misaligned with our values. Yeah. It's either in alignment with our values or it's out of alignment with our values. And every time we have a boundary setting, we're talking about this is a boundary or a limit because we're out of alignment with our family values. Mm-hmm. It's really important that we're on the same team. And speaking about our family values as the way that we stay on the same team. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, that it is loosey-goosey. Yes. Yes. And the big conversations can still happen. Yeah. And we're setting the groundwork. So I can guarantee that by the time that I have more like a 10-8 spread and like a littler one spread, then we're going to be able to have the family meetings where we're sitting down and we're saying, hey guys, this is what we've got on the list right now. Does this feel true? Does this feel right? Anything? What else is alive? What do you think? And then, with Juan and I primarily, again, like taking the leadership role, making sure we're having the meetings, making sure that we're checking in with the list ourselves and our own values and whatnot. Mm-hmm. It's baking it in. Yeah. And I think that it's effortful and effortless. Yeah. It's one of those. It's one of those. Once you've opened your awareness to it, it just becomes part of the everyday. Well, and it makes boundary setting so much more streamlined. Yeah. It's like, instead of like 1 million things that are stressing me out that are happening all the time, it's like, no, we've got 3 big hitters. Yeah. that we're hitting a lot. Yeah. And it's 3 main things. It's 3 main values that we're falling short on, and we need to maybe alter the structure, but it makes it so that we can actually adjust our structure and our operating approach. Yeah. To better meet values. Just it helps cut deeper than just behaviors. Yeah. It gets down to the root of the issues. Yeah. Way more effectively. So it's effortful so that it can be effortless. Yeah. Or more effortless. Yeah. And just like become part of the way that it works. Yeah. Like just the way that you operate as a family. Yeah. Like I think of how like we are already having a lot of these conversations with E, and the like noticing out loud. Like I'm noticing that. Yeah. I'm wondering if that's true. Privacy coming up. Yeah. As like a big privacy needs changing. Yeah. Just noticing. Seems like privacy is really important to you. Yeah. More so now than it has been before. Yeah. Yeah. Getting that confirmation. Yeah. Yeah. And so just like starting to open your awareness to it and then notice it. And then be willing to be influenced by that. Yeah. And then also, for yourself, like open to what is alive in those moments. What is your anger trying to tell you when you just feel like you're, like at the edge with it? Totally. I think can totally tell you a lot about your own values, and just starting to like tie all of them together feels good. Yeah. For lack of a better word. It feels cohesive. It helps in creating that coherent narrative that we all need as meaning makers, as folks. I just feel like largely our brain is a model maker. Yeah. Dan Siegel, I think, would agree. Yeah. I think I got it from him. Yeah. That largely our brains are model makers, and so we're creating a family model. A model of our value set together, which helps us make sense of our experience so much more clearly. Yeah. at least, again, it's like name it to tame it. Like, just let's talk about what's actually happening here. Yeah. I think it gives you a framework to do that. Yeah. This feels pretty complete.
Yeah.
I would love to end off with some questions to the listeners. Yeah. Maybe if we can just go back and forth, maybe like 2 questions each. Yeah. Of like what you feel like, what would you come away from this wanting to answer for yourself?
Yeah. I think I'm just thinking like for me in this, like,
no, I think that's great.
Because like I am like in the process of actively workshopping this as well. Something that I want to do. I don't know if this is necessarily what you were going for with like questions, but
I think no. I think it's just like a way to continue.
Yeah.
If you're feeling lit up or like this episode resonated with you, things that you can do to extend. From here.
I want to continue opening my awareness to what values are already present. So I'm not having to like force a value in, but instead allow them to emerge naturally into the space. So like not needing to walk away from right here, right now with my 3 top values, because that's not really how values work.
Right.
And so, because like I'm not choosing them from a headspace, I'm choosing them from like what's actually here.
Yeah.
And so wanting to continue to look more closely or be more open to those moments that there is the friction in the family, where there is anger that comes up, where there is those like things where it feels like we're not on the same team, and look at them from a value standpoint so that I can start to pinpoint some of the things that are important to not just me, but to all 3 of us.
Yeah. Totally.
I think that's like my big, I'm going to go out this week and start doing that.
Yeah. I think the questions that I would put out would be, you already kind of said it, but what is the anger in the individuals in your family pointing to as violated values that are on repeat violation, because and expanding this just beyond what your own anger is telling you, where your own anger is popping up, but also in your kids, also in your partners, and just starting, what dots connect for you with that prompt. What's your anger telling you about values not being met here, or values not being aligned with here?
I love how direct that question is, to like look at the anger.
Because I feel like you really got to whittle it down, and this is a huge topic, and we both have said separately that we don't want people to feel like you're somehow behind because we've been doing this work for a few years. And sometimes when we're talking, we are going to be talking, we're talking between 2 people, you and me. We're unique individuals. We're going to talk about what's true for us. And yes, we're a few years down the line, and we have many years to go, and it will always be this process. That's how conscious parenting is. It will always be a deepening, a leveling up, a reevaluating. But I think the questions at the end, I think it would be great to tie them back to like, if this is day 1 thinking about this, what can you do today to make it valuable? Or to connect with what we're talking about. That feels meaningful to me.
I like that a lot. And just being able to, and the thing is that because it is the, like, how we've talked about it, like it spirals, it's always deepening. It's like, it's not like that question is irrelevant to
I'll be
3 years down the line.
I'm going to absolutely be thinking about that again.
But it also, it can like invite everybody can be part of these conversations, whether you have a kid or not, whether you have a baby or a teenager. It's, all of these things are there.
I also, can I pitch something to you right now? Live.
Let's do it.
I feel like it would be really cool to tie into our Instagram account the questions so that people can come and actually bring their answers to Instagram.
I love that.
So if you have an answer to the question that you feel like you want to share, keep an eye out for a post in our Instagram.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear what's true for you.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to share.
I think that's great. And sort of like invite everybody into the community to sort of share, like have this be a shared experience.
I want it to be very living, breathing, not stagnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not stagnant funnel. You know, just
totally.
Like, no, let's actually have conversation about it beyond just here and now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that idea of the post with the questions and having every episode end with these like working questions that people can jiggle around.
I love it. I like it. That feels really good.
Yeah.
And if I have more questions come up, because I get the benefit of getting to watch these back as I'm editing them. Uh-huh. So if I have another question that comes up, I'll do a voiceover. Great. Or add it in the show notes or something.
And I'll always text you if I come up with one.
Yeah, please do.
And I think that's great. I like the structure of this for episodes. I think it feels really like full rounded, and I love that we like got to work it out in the first episode 101.
I agree. Okay, and big gratitude to anybody who listened already to day one or episode 1. I feel immense gratitude for the people who are here before episode 1 has even released.
I know.
And just the excitement and the open arms that I feel like we're being welcomed with by folks.
I know.
Just big appreciation.
Ditto. I like it. Yeah, it just feels really, it feels exciting.
Yes.
And it feels beyond just the fact that like I get to sit here and hang out with my friend. It feels that like the arm that we are wanting to reach out to include other people is like being received.
Is mutual.
Yeah.
Yes. They're ready to be reached out to.
Yeah. And for all the people that, like you said, are here in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Big gratitude for that, because you don't even know us yet. You don't even know what we're about yet.
I know. I feel really grateful and excited to evolve this thing as we go.
Yeah. And
to be here, right now, as it is.
Exactly.
Yay.
All right, friend.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yay. Bye. Hey, we know time is hard to come by. Thanks for spending some of yours with us. And remember, you can always reach out. We're real people, and we're interested in what's real for you too. Do you have questions or feedback? Anything you'd like to hear a chat on? Check the show notes for where to find us.